The crimson soil of Kepler 442b stretched endlessly under twin suns, barren and lifeless as far as most eyes could see. But Marcus Chen saw something different as he knelt beside the dusty earth, running the alien dirt through his weathered fingers. "Still playing in the mud, human?" Zixtal's voice carried the characteristic clicking disdain of the Vorthak species. The insectoid alien's compound eyes glittered with amusement as he watched Marcus from the shade of the colony's hydroponic facility. "Your primitive dirt scratching will yield nothing but disappointment." Marcus didn't look up from his work. 3 months on this colony world, and the same conversation played out daily. The other colonists, mostly Vorthak, with a smattering of silicon-based Christex and gas-breathing Nethians, had long since dismissed the lone human's agricultural ambitions as quaint foolishness. "The soil composition is all wrong," Dr. Veltar had explained during the initial colony briefings, her crystalline form refracting the harsh sunlight. "Trace minerals are insufficient. pH levels are hostile to most known flora. The electromagnetic radiation from the binary star system disrupts cellular growth patterns. This is why we invested in hydroponic systems." But Marcus had smiled and requested a plot of land anyway, just 50 acres on the colony's outskirts, far enough from the gleaming hydroponic towers that his experiment wouldn't interfere with serious food production. The other colonists tolerated him with condescending patience. After all, humans were the newest species to achieve interstellar travel, barely a century into their space age, while the Vorthak had been colonizing worlds for millennia. If the primitive human wanted to waste his time with ancient farming methods, what harm could it do? Now, as Kepler 442b entered its 4th month of colonial development, that tolerance was wearing thin. The hydroponic systems, for all their advanced technology, were struggling. Equipment failures plagued the facility weekly. The artificially controlled environment required constant maintenance and consumed enormous amounts of power. Worst of all, production yields were falling short of projections by 30%. "At this rate, we'll need to request emergency food supplies from the homeworld," Colony Administrator Quindar had announced grimly during the morning briefing. The Nethian's gas sack deflated with worry as he spoke. "Our current reserves will last perhaps another 6 weeks. Zixtal had been quick to point blame. "If we had allocated the humans' land allocation to expanding the hydroponic facility, 50 acres wouldn't have made a significant difference," Dr. Veltar interrupted, though her tone carried its own frustration. "The problems are systemic, not spatial." Marcus had remained silent during these meetings as he had for weeks. But outside the conference dome, under the twin suns that other species found harsh and unforgiving, something extraordinary was happening. The first shoots had appeared in week 6, small green specks that seemed impossibly vibrant against the red soil. Marcus had brought seeds from Earth, carefully selected varieties that thrived in difficult conditions: amaranth, quinoa, cassava, and desert-adapted legumes. But he'd done something else, something the other colonists dismissed as superstitious nonsense. He'd mixed Earth soil with the alien dirt, not much, just a handful per acre, carried in his personal effects and hoarded like treasure. The other colonists saw it as sentiment, a human's need for connection to his homeworld. They didn't understand that Marcus was introducing something more valuable than minerals or nutrients. He was introducing an entire ecosystem. Earth soil teemed with microscopic life, bacteria, fungi, nematodes, and countless other organisms that had evolved over billions of years to work in harmony with plant life. These tiny allies could break down nutrients, protect roots from pathogens, and create the complex chemical relationships that made real agriculture possible. The alien soil of Kepler 442b was sterile, technically fertile but biologically dead. Marcus had spent 30 years farming in drought-stricken regions of Earth, learning to coax life from difficult ground. He understood something that advanced hydroponic systems couldn't replicate. Farming wasn't just about providing plants with nutrients in controlled conditions. It was about creating living, breathing ecosystems. As week 12 arrived, Marcus's fields had transformed into something that defied the colony's scientific projections. Emerald crops swayed in the alien breeze, their roots reaching deep into soil that now pulsed with microbial life. The twin suns that other species found hostile had become allies, their broad-spectrum radiation captured by plants that had evolved under a single star but adapted with surprising resilience. The other colonists began to take notice. "Impossible," Dr. Veltar declared, her crystalline form refracting light as she examined Marcus's crops. The yield projections. These numbers can't be accurate. But they were. Marcus's fields were producing food at rates that dwarfed the struggling hydroponic facility. More importantly, they were producing it sustainably, requiring nothing more than rainwater collection and the occasional addition of compost made from colony waste. The revelation came just as Colony Administrator Quindar was preparing to send the emergency request for food supplies. Instead, Marcus approached him with a different proposal. "I can feed the colony," Marcus said simply. "All of it. But I'll need help with the harvest." The other colonist stared at him with a mixture of disbelief and dawning respect. Sixtal's compound eyes fixed on the human who had been dismissed as a primitive dirt scratcher just months before. "How?" Dr. Veltar asked, her scientific mind struggling to reconcile the evidence with her understanding of agricultural science. Marcus smiled, gesturing toward his thriving fields. "You focused on controlling every variable, creating perfect conditions in isolation. But life doesn't work in isolation. It works in relationships between plants and soil, between roots and microbes, between species that support each other across millions of years of evolution." He knelt down and picked up a handful of the rich, dark soil that had once been lifeless red dust. "I didn't fight this world. I gave it life and let that life teach me how to work with it." The harvest that followed fed not just the struggling colony, but produced surplus enough to support 3 additional settlements. Word spread throughout the sector about the human farmer, who had accomplished what advanced alien technology could not. Other colonies began requesting Marcus's assistance, eager to learn the ancient art of working with living soil rather than against sterile environments. The human who had been mocked for his primitive methods became the most sought-after agricultural consultant in the sector. But Marcus never forgot the lesson of Kepler 442b. As he stood in his fields, watching alien colonists work alongside human techniques, he understood that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their adaptability. It was their willingness to nurture life in partnership rather than domination, to find abundance through cooperation rather than control. The red soil of Kepler 442b had become black with rich humus, teeming with the microscopic partnerships that made all higher life possible. And in that transformation, the galaxy learned something new about the species that had seemed so young and primitive. Sometimes the oldest wisdom was also the most revolutionary,